What is going on, guys? So today we have another saltwater fish top 10 for you, and we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 saltwater fish that are carnivores. Now, when I started putting this list together of different saltwater fish, I realized that I was focusing mostly on community-based carnivore saltwater fish. So if you came here looking for a predator tank list of carnivore specific saltwater fish, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait another day for that one, but there should be one coming out fairly soon. Wink wink, nudge nudge. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can be notified every time that we upload a new video. And without further ado, let's jump into our top 10 carnivore saltwater fish. Coming in at number 10 is the Longnose Hawkfish. Now, the hawkfish variety of saltwater fish is a semi-aggressive fish, so it's definitely one that you want to add to your tank, probably towards the end of the line. We've talked about that before in a selecting saltwater fish video, which I'll be sure to put a link to that in the description below. But this guy is considered easy to care for. Again, has that semi-aggressive temperament. Is a carnivore, is reef safe with caution, so it's a fish that you're going to want to test out. Make sure it's not going to nip at your corals before adding it to your reef tank. They can grow upwards of 5 inches and require a minimum tank size of 40 gallons or larger. And the reason that this fish, that even though it can grow upwards of 5 inches and still stay in a tank that is a little bit smaller, is they are a very sight-orientated fish, and they tend not to swim for long distances. They are often perching on the rockwork, looking around, and have very interesting behavior, and that's what makes them a great addition to many reef tanks. Coming in at number 9 on our top 10 saltwater fish who eat the meats is the neon goby. Now, this guy is considered easy to care for, has a peaceful temperament, requires a meat diet, and is reef safe. Can grow upwards of 2 inches and requires a tank of 10 gallons or bigger. Now, being a fish that doesn't grow very large, only 2 inches, and isn't much of a swimmer, it makes it a great candidate for a nano tank. So if you are an individual that has one of those smaller tanks that we lovingly referred to as a nano tank, the neon goby is a great addition. Not only that, they are often captive bred. Being such a small fish and not requiring a lot of space and being very sight-oriented makes them a great fish for aquaculture, and a lot of times you can find one that is tank bred, which is going to help sustain the hobby. And it's always important to make sure that you can do everything that you can to support people that are doing aquaculture, like buying captive bred fish. Coming in at number 8 on our top 10 saltwater fish that are meat eaters is the cardinal fish. Now, the cardinal fish is also another heavily aquacultured fish, to the point where actually this fish was looking at extinction, and due to aquaculture was actually brought back to life. This fish is considered easy to care for, is semi-aggressive, requires a all-meat diet, and is considered reef safe. They can grow upwards of 3 inches and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or larger. They are not one of the most colorful saltwater fish out there, but in the past years have really become one of my most favorite saltwater fish to have in a tank. And I really have a hard time picturing a saltwater tank without a cardinal fish. Coming in at number 7 on our top 10 saltwater fish who eat the meats is the Cooter Benny. Now, this guy, even though I haven't seen a lot of them floating around in the hobby in the last couple of years, they are considered difficult care level. They have a peaceful temperament, require a all-meat diet, are considered reef safe, and can grow upwards of 5 inches and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or bigger. One of the most interesting things about this fish, even though it's not very colorful, is its behavior when it's hunting. It tends to hover above the sand bed, and its eyes are constantly moving around, looking for copepods and such to feed on. A very beautiful fish, in my opinion. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. And if you understand their requirements and can maintain a healthy copepod population in your reef tank, they can make a great addition to many, many reef tanks. Coming in at number 6 on our top 10 saltwater fish who are carnivores is the Orchid Dottyback. Now, this guy is considered easy to care for, has a semi-aggressive temperament, and I would even go as far as to say maybe even slightly aggressive. They are a very site-orientated fish. They usually carve out a section of the reef tank as far as that is their territory. So it's something that you definitely need to consider if you're looking at a Orchid Dottyback. They have a all-meat diet, are considered reef safe, can grow upwards of 3 inches, and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons. And that kind of goes back to its ability to be a very site-orientated fish, being that it prefers small locations and kind of carves out a section of the reef tank and basically dominates it. It's probably one of the most stunning fish that I've ever seen as far as coloration goes, even though that it only has basically that one color and different variations of it. It is very vivid in its appearance, and if you've never had the opportunity to see this fish in person, when you do, definitely check it out and watch its behavior, because it is an interesting fish, both in its coloration and its behavior. Coming in at number 5 in our top 10 saltwater fish who eat meat is the Sixline Rat. Now, I have a very much love-hate relationship with this fish. I love its appearance. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's probably one of the most colorful saltwater fish out there. It's got pinks, it's got purples, blues, greens, oranges. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on as far as coloration with this fish. But they can be a little bit of a prick. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit. And that really has to do with its breeding behavior. So once it reaches sexual maturity, its behavior is a harem style of breeder. So if you get a male, its behavior is want to school all the females together. And it's very similar to African cichlids, where you'll have one male and 4 or 5 or even more females. And that one male is just kind of controlling the group, and it can become very aggressive to the females. You don't want to go 1-for-1, because that one cichlid could really beat up on that female. And that same behavior is exhibited in Sixline Rats, and that makes it a not so great candidate for a community tank. And I guarantee it will happen. There is people that say that there are exceptions to the rule with this fish, and they've had a Sixline Rat for years. It's an absolutely amazing fish, doesn't bother anybody. Might be a female. I don't know if these guys are dimorphic, which means that the males and females look different from each other. I'm not 100% certain on that. But I have not had a great experience with this fish. But I will say that this fish does an amazing job of keeping pests at bay. They are considered easy to care for, have a semi-aggressive temperament, require a all-meat diet, are considered reef safe, can grow upwards of 3 inches, and require a minimum tank size of 50 gallons or bigger. Coming in at number 4 on our top 10 saltwater fish who are meat eaters is the Royal Brahma. Now, the Royal Brahma is considered easy to care for, has a peaceful temperament, requires an all-meat diet, and is considered reef safe, grows upwards of 3 inches, and requires a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or bigger. Now, these guys are a little bit of a digger. So as far as when you set up your tank, you want to make sure that you put your rock work in first and then the sand. You don't want to do like what I did in the water box, which a lot of people called out, is put the sand in, then the rock work. Because if you put fish in there that are diggers, it could collapse the rock work, not only potentially harming the fish, it also could harm the tank and cause a big mess. So definitely important to make sure that you do a lot of research on whatever type of fish that you're going to add to your tank, and make sure you set up your tank accordingly. And with this fish, you want to make sure that you have a very secure rock structure. Coming in at number 3 on our top 10 saltwater fish who are carnivores is the yellow Watchman Goby. Now, this guy is considered easy to care for, has a peaceful temperament, has an all-meat diet, is considered reef safe, can grow upwards of 4 inches, and the bigger they get, the grumpier they look. They require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or bigger. Now, as far as the coloration on this fish, it is a very striking yellow, and those spots that you can see on the picture, those are typically a very blue hue, and I don't think they really captured that with this picture, but they are a absolute stunning fish, and the way that their mouths turn down when they get larger, they are very, very grumpy looking and very awesome. They have a lot of interesting behavior. They're diggers. They're going to find little caves and make little caves in the tank. So a very interesting fish. A lot of great behavior in this guy. Has that peaceful temperament, and he will defend his territory if necessary But outside of that, a very peaceful fish and a great addition to any reef tank. So definitely check them out if you haven't yet. Coming in at number 2 in our top 10 saltwater fish who eat the meats is the green Mandarin. This is probably one of the very few fish on this list. Well, actually, that's not true because number 1 I also have not kept. I've been a little scared of this fish because it is a fish that is known to be difficult to care for. Haven't done it yet. Haven't pulled the trigger, but I'm feeling like it's going to happen soon. This fish is considered difficult to care for, has a very peaceful temperament, so you want to make sure that you are considering its tank mates. Has a carnivore diet, is considered reef safe, can grow upwards of 4 inches, and requires a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or bigger. And what makes this fish so difficult to keep, much like the Cooter Benny, is it needs a healthy population of copepods so it can constantly graze. And they do just that. They're constantly looking around for the next meal, but they are absolutely stunning. And coming in at number 1 on our top 10 saltwater fish who are meat eaters is the blue dot jawfish. Now, this guy is considered moderate care level, has a semi-aggressive personality, is very territorial, and wants to defend his caves, has a all-meat diet, is considered reef safe, can grow upwards of 3.5 inches, and requires a minimum tank size of 30 gallons or bigger. A very interesting fish, has a lot of character, a lot of personality, and is very sight-oriented. That's why it can be kept in smaller tanks, and probably ought to should be, just so where you're going to pay a lot of money for this fish, you want to see it. The only thing that I've always worried about with this type of fish is if it makes its home on the backside of the tank and then you never see it. All that aside, definitely a beautiful fish, and that's why it is number 1 on our top 10 saltwater fish who eat meat. Alright, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Mad Hatter's Reef. I want to thank you for joining me. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. That's going to do it for today. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week right here with a brand new episode of Mad Hatter's Reef.